Well, good gaming, champions. Welcome to this special interview. I'm so excited. We get to talk to a person who has done it, who has went through the struggle, who has made their game. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to y'all Troy Mepians. What is up, Troy?
How we doing, man?
You know, I'm doing good. It's been a minute since I've seen you.
It has.
It's good to see you. It's good to see that. We're going to talk about that. But go ahead and let the people know, like, who you are and, like, what you do. Yeah.
My name is Troy Mepians. I started out in gaming as a freelancer for Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. That was almost 8 years ago now. I've got several adventures published through them. I was part of the second edition core rulebook writing. So I've, got a credit in that one, which was thrilled with that.
Oh, yeah.
And then just they launched the 2D20 program, but they called it the World Builder. They pretty much, right about the same time that Wizards had their thing going on, Modifius launched a OGL for the 2D20 system, Star Trek Adventures, all of that. And a bunch of us that were already writing for Star Trek Adventures were just, we'll give it a shot, give it a try.
Right.
And Al Spader, the guy that did my the forward in Ashland, he's done the Federation Klingon War for Star Trek Adventures. I mean, he's got 2 role-playing games of his own. I helped him a little bit with creating Sentience.
Yes.
And then he basically just turned around and jumped onto Ashland with me, and we published them. I want to say it was like within a week of each other.
Woo-hoo. And I know that's exciting, especially like I know like working with somebody on stuff is a difficult but yet is a rewarding thing.
Yes.
Because people have their different ideas, but that's when you get that good collaboration.
Yep.
But we're not talking about his game today.
Nope.
We are talking about your baby. We're talking about Ashlands. So how about we just get a good like overview of what is Ashlands?
Okay. Ashland is post-apocalyptic. A little bit of a different flavor to it, though. The post-apocalypse is not, like nuclear war or zombie apocalypse or anything like that. It's basically a natural disaster exasperated by man.
Okay, so it's more like for instance, we have too much carbon going up in the sky, and so it's like the extreme version of what the greenhouse effects would do, or something like maybe like a nuclear thing. Maybe they're working on a power plant, and then that goes haywire, something like that.
Kind of.
Okay. Yes.
Basically, it's the disaster that takes place is known as the blaze.
Okay.
And in the game, it's about 300 years after that fact.
Okay.
So most people in the world only know parts of what happened. What it was is in the early 22nd century, man had figured out how to tap through the Earth's crust, tap into the mantle, and was using that for geothermal energy.
Oh.
And, multiple places around the planet. So, hey, we just solved the energy crisis for all of humanity.
Right.
Which was fine until early 2123 when they noticed a very large, very dense asteroid that was making an approach.
Oh.
And did their best to try to deflect it. And it didn't work. This was a very high iron content, and it's about the same size as the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. So they realized they couldn't stop it. It was going to strike at about a 90-degree angle, so almost dead on. And it'll come into play, later in some of the later books. But the military industrial, the military politicals were like, why are we even going to bother warning people? They're just going to die terrified. And the scientific community was like, we have an obligation to warn them. And they ended up not doing anything. And they all went to their little shelters because they were already built. And when the asteroid hit, unlike with the dinosaurs, when it just vibrated the planet, something terrible.
Right.
Because of the holes in the crust, it compressed. Well, when it compressed, the mantle that's being pressured has to come out somewhere.
Right.
Well, every single vent on the surface of the planet is a volcano. Supervolcano, you name it. All of them went.
The blaze. That is a blaze. Yes.
And because when the asteroid hits, it launches things in the air called ejecta.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, research on this. But as the ejecta gets up into the upper atmosphere, it's still got to come down, gravity.
Right.
Well, just like a spacecraft, it ignites. You had a worldwide firestorm. Temperatures for probably between 36 and 48 hours around most of the planet would have ranged upwards of 400 to 500 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. Anything on the surface would not survive.
Oh, yeah, no.
And then it gets worse.
I can only imagine because then you you will have the after effects of all that happening. That means nature is messed up. That means like every tree. So I can imagine no oxygen or a very little substance of oxygen unless you're in one of those bunkers to have them. Okay, so first question, because I hear it already. Mm-hmm. What made you trigger to make Ashlands? Because it seems like within the process, you have done so much research. So what was the spark of what you trying to make this game?
People will never believe it. It was actually an honest-to-God dream that I had about 15 years ago, and I remembered snippets from it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I remembered was the term the blaze.
Okay.
I remember looking out over what used to be Lake Michigan. It was a dry lake bed.
Okay.
And the character that's kind of the narrator in the core rule book, Neil Armstrong Savage, that was the only name I remember. And his phrase in there, and it's written in here, where he talks about his mother named him after a man that walked on the moon. 350 years before.
Yeah.
And he said, sometimes I just look up at that moon and I wonder what Ashland looked like back then from up there before the blaze.
Nice. And so you took a dream and you went with this whole system. Now, you said you did the 2D20 system. Yep. You made it that way. Look, so I know about... Because when I'm going through it, I know that we have to, when you make a game like this, you're going to have to do the play testing. Oh, yeah. You're going to have to do the edits. So how was your experiences doing that and actually setting those dates up and setting those because I know a lot of people wants to make these things and they don't ever see the process. They see the big book at the end. Oh, yeah. They don't understand. So how about we walk through a little bit of how you went about play testing and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I got lucky because by this time I was involved in a Star Trek Adventures group. Mm-hmm. Well, most of us that play write for Modiphius. So know the system backwards and forwards. Michael Dice-Smuke, a gentleman that runs Continuing Conversations on YouTube, the Game Master's Guide for Star Trek Adventures, whole 9 yards. He's our game master. Al is my executive officer because I'm captain on the ship. Nice. So we already had kind of a built-in play test.
Yeah.
And everybody knew the system so well that they could look through it and just say, okay, this is probably going to work for this, but it may not work for that. Mm-hmm. And just like Modiphius does between, Dune or Fallout, you make some adjustments, but the main skeleton of the system remains the same. Yes.
So it's when you do I believe called OGL, when you have a company who lets you play with those things, it's going to be, familiar with it. Mm-hmm. But like you said, some things are just going to be different between each of your systems. So what do you think is the biggest difference between when you talk about mechanics between your game and Star Trek? Let's start there because that's the one you've been playing a lot.
Characters by and large. When you're creating characters in Star Trek, your characters are going to be, you're talking the top 1% of the top 1% in a political entity that has over 500 worlds.
Yes.
So you're talking trillions of people, and you are the top 1%. So your characters can do nearly anything. So, and in here, most of your characters are going to be essentially the everyman. Survivors.
Right.
The ones living in the cities where it's more almost like a cyberpunk dystopia.
Yeah.
The undersea cities where, love, art, all of that are forbidden because they're not scientific.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Huh.
So there are 3 factions in there, which is completely different.
Huh.
So you've got 3 totally different environments in Ashland that you can end up playing in.
Oh, what's those 3 environments then?
Well, there's the Ashen Wastes.
Okay.
And the people that dwell there, they call themselves the Ashen.
Okay.
They are the ones that coined the term Ashland.
Okay.
Earth is no longer referred to as Earth. It is Ashland. As far as they're concerned, Earth died in 2123. 300 years later, you have a population that's maybe about 0.92% what it is now. So you figure 2123 population was about 113 billion. There's maybe 13 million left on the planet.
I mean, yeah, post-apocalypse, that fits.
And then, there were the cities, which they called metropoli. They were domed cities that the military, political, and scientific community had built. Many of those survived.
Okay.
A lot of them didn't, but many of them did. And they have kind of rebuilt technology. They of course had stores of technology, that kind of thing. They've learned to run it on, solar, that kind of thing. But the group that runs it, simply known as the Covenant, they are absolute control. So, Ashland is all about survival.
Okay.
Well, that means different things to different people. When you're out in the Ashen Wastes, survival means I want to keep breathing tomorrow.
Yes.
If you're in the metropoli, survival is, if I'm giving up every shred of freedom I have for security, am I surviving or am I existing? And it's the same thing with the Oceanicans. If I'm giving up literally my soul because everything that makes me human, I can't do. I can't love, I can't create, I can't do any of this. Am I surviving or am I existing?
So the narrative would be like that balance. And probably you will pick, are you able to pick where you want to start the campaign, probably be able to work that thing out. And then, that's very interesting. So let's get back to the design part of it, because I can talk about the game all day. So we get to the play testing, we get to the edits and probably the re-edits, then the re-edits on re-edits. How did it feel the moment that you got it done?
It was like a relief. Thankfully I had, I've written novels and things like that. So I know what that push at the end feels like. Come on, bear down, just get it done. And it was actually May 1st of 23 that I launched it.
Nice.
And popped it up on TTRPG and it was like, okay, here we go. And, I think in 1 year I sold, of course it was pay what you want. So,
right.
But we moved little over 300 copies.
Nice.
So I'm pleased with that.
Oh yeah, that's where you get a win. And for those who don't know, there's TTRPG is a great place to get new RPGs. You can get PDFs of other things, but you can get some cool indie stuff that people just can publish. It's one thing I've been looking at for the distribution of what I'm trying to do, but that's a good outlet. Another itch.io is another one, and it's there's multiple ones. But okay, we got the game. we here. Now, how was the process of getting your game from like you got the PDF version of it, we're groovy, but getting it to be that hard copy right there?
Well, with the Modifius 2D20 World Builder system, it was digital only. So they did have a stipulation if you sold a certain amount that they would, possibly allow print copy. Well, none of us ever got to that point. So through that whole year, it's been digital only. I did a print on demand myself through Lulu just for a personal copy of my own.
Yeah.
But, it was strictly digital. And then, this July is when I got dialed into the Yellow Hand because they were negotiating with Chris Birch for a license for the 2D20 system to be licensed to sell Al Spader's game Sentience, which is also the same system. So when that got approved, they immediately submitted a proposal for Ashland, essentially the same thing.
Okay.
And Chris Birch, signed right off on it. Was like, yep, let's do it. Nice. And, they of course, they get some of theirs too. Which is fair is fair.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, they'll announce stuff about it saying, hey, by the way, this is, based on our system, you might want, you might like this. So it's been really nice to see that, kind of come to be.
Yeah, especially because that's a big thing about, getting through a publisher or a distributor. Like, you get that weight off of you need to do everything by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you get that weight of, like, you don't need, like, they will do the marketing. They will help you with the art, which we all know is a buttload. Like, let me, like, I'm camera here. This is my camera. Buttload. Art, they deserve it, but buttload. Yep. So it goes through that. You go through Yellow Hand, and then you get this copy. So tell me the feeling when you actually held it, like when you actually touched it and seen it there. How did you feel?
The week before I went to Yukon, I had placed an order for 5 copies. I was going to take them to the convention with me, and they arrived 2 days before I left. And I remember just setting the box down, opening it, and just staring at it.
Yep.
And And then, taking it out, looking at the cover and thinking that this is beautiful. And I even took a picture of it next to my original, which all of the art in there was public domain black and white photos.
Right.
And so it's just that comparison going, oh my gosh, this is, this looks professional for Pete's sake.
Yes.
And, thank goodness the guy that is heading up Yellow Hand at the moment, Jay, is an artist by trade. So, and he's been in the industry for years and years. So that's, kind of where this, the artwork came from. And then it was just a matter of, okay, we've got some artists that we can do the similar style.
Right.
And just, it fell together fast.
See, I need y'all to hear that because it is so nice to be able to work with people, like, especially when it comes to art. Yes, you can go through, and then like a lot of indie people, like, you look at those public domain things, make sure they're good. Like, I use Pixel Bay. They're good. I think Pexels is pretty good. And then now tell me the story about like your map actually.
Yep.
How you did that. That is cool.
Yep. The map that I have in here is essentially a map of the world, projection map, with 40% of the Earth's water missing. And what that was is NASA actually did a simulation of the Earth warming and water evaporating off the planet. So each stage had a frame photo associated with it, or an artwork associated with it. So I basically just flipped through all of the forms and went, that'll work.
Fair.
And just pulled it out. And Jay got a hold of it, and he put in the hexes, and then he did the various settlements for the Ashen, the Metropoli, and all that. And it's the same map. And, anything on NASA at the time, I don't know if it still is, I'd imagine it is, was public domain. So,
and that's and that's what you do. You find ways, you use what talents you already have. Because if you could tell, the man knows marketing because he has a shirt. So that came in. But what you do is you use the things and then you work around it. But then, like I said, you go with a cool publisher, somebody who will believe in you.
Right.
That's the main thing, I think. Because it seems like the people at Yellow Hand, they really looked at your thing. It was like, yes, this is what we want. We're trying to make it the thing that you envisioned. And that is the positive. That's what we want. That's that. And that happens. And that's beautiful. So I think the last question I have to ask, when you gonna run this for me? That's really I want to create a character. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna get arrested many times. I'm gonna be a bard. I'm gonna make some art. I'm gonna try to hide it. I might hum a little bit, but when we run it, we can talk about this outside of the thing, but we need to run it because I am excited.
Well, I actually plan on running it here at Voss. Probably after the first of the year, I'm going to start running. I'm going to run Ashland. I'm going to be running Sentience. I'm going to be running Once Upon, and try to get some exposure for all of us there. But I'm definitely going to be running Ashland multiple times. Try to get as many people to see it, to experience it, to play it. I have a standalone adventure, which is a follow-up to the adventure in the back of the core rulebook, and that actually includes all 3 factions in the first act. And in the second and third act, they're together.
Okay.
To basically deal with something, the problem at the end there.
Yes.
And that will actually lead into the faction books, which are coming out this year.
Nice.
And they will lead into a main campaign after that.
You love to see it. You love this, and I think that is a very important thing you want to have, especially when you come with a brand new campaign. Have that adventure after it. Have that little nibble, and just make it so when you have new players, especially getting in front of people, having new players experience it, because there's 50 million, trillion, thousand, million, and no more numbers of RPGs out there.
Oh yeah,
and it really is important to really get it out there and to go on shows like this and talk about it so people will understand and see it. And then as we wrap, where are these people going to get their game?
Okay. They can get it yellowhand.com.
Okay.
Ashland RPG, all lowercase.com will take you to the same page. Voss Media has copies of it on hand. He can order, the hardcover, that kind of thing. All of that's orderable through here. The other games are also going to be available, Sentience, Once Upon. We've got another 2 or 3 that are going to be coming out within the next year. So it's going to be a wild 2025.
Oh, I am excited because you told me about the other games too, and I want to play all of them. So, because I have an addiction to RPGs, which is not a bad thing. That's why I tell my wife any day. Anyway, so well, thank you, champions, for watching this. Definitely go support Troy. This sounds like a fantastic game. I cannot wait to play it. And like always, champions never stop playing. See y'all later.
See ya.